Caster Semenya is used to winning. After all, she's a world-class athlete, but this victory is sure to be special. In a ruling on Tuesday, the European Court of Human Rights found that the South African runner had been discriminated against when she was ordered to take medication to lower her testosterone levels in order to be allowed to compete as a woman. The three-time world champion and double Olympic champion over 800 meters was born intersex with so-called differences of sexual development, but has always identified as female. She's refused to take the medication since the International World Athletics Federation introduced the rule in 2018. Now, after a long-running legal battle, the European Court of Human Rights has ruled in her favor. World Athletics will seek to appeal the verdict. And for more, let's bring in Katerina Karkazis. She is a cultural anthropologist at Amherst College in Massachusetts. She's also the co-author of Testosterone, an unauthorized biography, which sets out the facts about the hormone and corrects false perceptions and myths surrounding it. Welcome to the day. Here you can see the cover of the book. Let's dive right in. What's your takeaway from today's court decision?
I think it's a tremendous decision. I think it surprised many who have worked on these cases, including Caster's multiple cases over the last couple of years. And I think it sends a resounding message right now that the lens through which we've talked about and debated these policies, which has primarily been a scientific one, has been to the disadvantage of considering human rights violations. And so what this decision does is put human rights violations front and center and say that the prior cases haven't given due consideration to these violations. Mm-hmm. That goes all the way back to the earliest case at the Court of Arbitration for Sport. And it argues essentially that Caster has not been given proper remedy through all of her challenges. So it's really an incredibly important and wonderful decision that's come out today.
This ruling applies only to the way Caster Semenya was treated in Switzerland, and it won't allow her to return to competition automatically. She might still miss the 2024 Olympic Games. So is this win anything but symbolic?
You know, I could see why one might suggest that, but I think it's much more than symbolic. And I think it's actually going to have a long-term impact, not simply regarding these regulations, but the connection between sports and human rights more generally. So part of what's happened in these debates is that they have been focused on the science, and we've not paid due diligence to the harms. And it sends a message, I think, to other sports governing bodies that those human rights harms need to be considered. And in fact, I would argue that world athletics is not at the forefront, but is actually falling far behind these kinds of considerations, such that, you know, the IOC very recently redid their regulations and did them exclusively through a human rights framework. FIFA is also going through a similar process. So world athletics at this point actually looks out of step for repeatedly not considering or even acknowledging human rights violations with their regulations.
Out of step, you say, and today they came out saying that their rules are necessary, reasonable, and proportionate means of protecting fair competition in the female category, also announcing an appeal to the ruling. What do you say to that?
Well, what we know is that world athletics for decades now, I would argue close to 7, has been targeting particular athletes to get them out of sport. So in a way, this is a very old story that has been debated and adjudicated over and over. There have been times when there have been no regulations. There have been times where there have been regulations. But the world is changing, and our understanding, I think, of sex complexity, gender complexity is also shifting, which is what makes world athletics, I think, look out of step with, you know, part of the conversations that are happening currently around that complexity.
We only have about a minute left, but I do want to get into the scientific nitty-gritty because Semenya was sanctioned effectively due to her testosterone levels. So scientifically speaking, why is this so problematic?
Well, I think here's the deal. These rely on a particular connection or causal connection between testosterone level and athletic performance. And when you look more broadly at the evidence, that body of evidence is mixed. Sometimes there's a positive relationship between testosterone level and athletic performance. Sometimes it's neutral, and sometimes it's negative, which means that actually the higher the testosterone, the worse you do. So it's not at all a clear relationship, and that's what makes these flat-footed policies that argue volumetrically about testosterone and athletic performance don't hold.
That was Katrina Karkazis from Amherst College in Massachusetts. Thank you so much for breaking this very complex topic down for us.
Thank you.